Welcome to the Intuitive Entrepreneur Show, where we bring enlightened entrepreneurs, coaches, and influencers together to discuss cutting-edge topics for the world of relationships, culture, business, and spirituality. Here's your host, Max and Janetta Jones.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Carol's Courage to Confidence segment of the Max and Janetta Jones Intuitive Entrepreneur Show. Now, those of you who follow me know I'm your weather girl, so I'm going to look outside and tell you it is hot, it is sunny, and we got rain coming. So if you're joining me today, please let me know in the comments where you're chiming in from and what the weather's like where you are. As a matter of fact, I'm going to pop these comments on so I can see who's talking to me. Who's here today? It's a great day. It's the last day of the month of May. We are 5 months into the year. Are you where you want to be on your goals, whether they're personal goals, professional goals? They could be relationship goals, finance goals, health goals. Where are you based on where you said in January that you really want it to be? We're going to talk a little bit about that today, right? Because in one more month, we're halfway through the year. I'm thinking about having Christmas in June this year instead of Christmas in July, right? Because so often people wait. So we're going to talk about where we are on our goals today. And then I'm going to also after I introduce our guest that just popped in, we're going to take something from Erwin Raphael McManus's book called The Last Arrow. Let me welcome our first guest, Jennifer. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks. How are you doing?
I'm excellent. Is this your first time here?
It is. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. Tell us a little bit about you, and you must tell us where you're chiming in from and what the weather's like where you are.
Yes. So I am a holistic health coach who is specialized in helping people with chronic illness build healthy and sustainable habits through things like strength training, nutrition, Ayurveda, yoga, and meditation. I am from Hamilton, Ontario, which today we've been really blessed the last little while. We've been getting like almost 30-degree weather, not any chance of rain in sight. So everyone around here is pretty happy.
So that's 30 degrees centigrade, correct?
So, yes, for sure.
So what's that, about 70 down here in Fahrenheit?
I think so. I'm not too good at that, the conversion.
Me either. I just noted down here if it was 30, it'd be cold because I'm in South Florida. It would be seriously cold at 30. As a matter of fact, I remember I've been down here 36 years, and after I first moved down here, I think it was Christmas of 1989. And I went to I was raised Methodist, so I went to the Methodist church for Christmas Eve service, and it was at midnight. And what they do is they have this kind of candlelit processional when you walk out, right? And everybody's supposed to go outside and get in a big circle and sing Christmas carols. Now, this is my favorite part. I love to sing Christmas carols. It just so happened that night it was about 39 degrees. And nobody wanted to stay outside and sing but me because they said it was too cold. Now, for people who don't believe in climate change, it has never been that cold here again. Ever. I mean, we're lucky if we get something in the low 50s or 40s during the wintertime. So I miss that. So I bet you, do you have a wood burning fireplace?
I do not. I don't. I wish I did. And you never know. We are looking to buy a home. So maybe the home will have that. Let's hope.
You'd be surprised how many people I speak to from Canada, like Minnesota, Michigan. And I'm like, do you have a wood burning fireplace? And they're like, no. I'm like, I wouldn't live there without one. I'm like, I'm not going. So tell us how you got on the path that you're on.
Yes. Okay. So many, many years ago, I was not healthy whatsoever. I didn't value my health. I didn't value taking care of myself. And I really thought my body was invincible and that I could do whatever and nothing would matter. Well, this all kind of came crashing down on me when I started to get really sick. Mm-hmm. So I started having all these weird and strange symptoms pop up. They prevented me from going to work. I was spending so much time going to the hospital and to the doctor to try and figure out what's going on here, what's happening to my body. And it took about 1.5 years to finally get a diagnosis. And I was eventually diagnosed with Crohn's disease, which is an autoimmune illness. And if you know about autoimmune illness, there's no real cure for autoimmune. And so this was my turning point. It didn't happen right away. I faced a lot of resistance because I was stubborn and I wanted to just continue living my life the way I always had and not have to worry about a single thing. And so I continued to do that for quite a bit of time after I was diagnosed, because I almost I wanted to prove myself that no, this doesn't have to change anything. And I can come on top of this and just continue doing what I'm doing. Well, that did not work. And at one point, things got even worse. I actually had precancerous cells in my colon at one point. My doctor was kind of like, smarten up. What are you doing? Clearly, whatever you're doing. Yeah, wake up. And so that's when I began my path of undoing, where I started to decide that, hey, this isn't the life I want to live. I don't want to have an early life. I don't want to have my colon removed. There were so many things. And so I started to learn more about how I could become healthier. So it started with exercise and making sure I was moving every single day. Then I started exploring nutrition and how I could fuel my body properly, and also understand, because with Crohn's disease, it affects your digestive tract. So there was, whenever I would look it up, it would be so discouraging, because it would be like, there's nothing you can eat, and what works for one person doesn't work for the other. And there was just these long lists of all these foods you had to cut out, where you're left wondering, well, what the heck can I eat then? So it was very challenging, because I felt like I couldn't enjoy my life anymore, because I had to cut out every single food from what the resources were telling me. But then eventually I hired a holistic nutritionist, and she really helped me to learn about how I could, cut out certain foods and slowly introduce them back into my diet, and really start to identify what were my specific trigger foods. And I think as we age, that changes. So it's like, whatever was my trigger foods then, after I healed my body, fast forward to today, I've been in remission of Crohn's disease for 5 years.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you very much. And I think my body's different than when it was then, right? So I can eat some foods that bothered me then, when my body was so inflamed. And yeah, so if anyone's listening who might be having to give up some foods right now, I think it's important to know it might not be forever, because that kind of helped me continue moving forward. Strength training became a huge passion of mine. I just felt really strong and confident, and it just made me feel really good. And it was a place for me to just let go and turn off my mind, and just go lift some weights and not really worry and stress about everything going on. And
I'm going to jump in real quick, because for me, I agree with you. It doesn't matter what's going on in my life. It doesn't matter. When I walk through the doors of the gym and the door closes, I leave it all outside. I just leave it all outside. There is no stress in the gym. I love it. Love lifting weights. So I'm with you.
I saw a funny meme. You'll probably appreciate it. It was like, I felt sad, and then I went and lifted weights. Felt great after. And it's like, that's how simple it is. It's like, sometimes we don't want to go, but when we go, you're like, oh, I'm so glad I went.
It's kind of an inverse idea, right? That if you're tired and you go exercise, which you don't want to do, because you tell yourself that you're tired, but if you go and you do it, you have more energy.
Of course.
But trying to share that with somebody who hasn't experienced it, that's a tough mindset to overcome.
It really is. And I noticed myself go through this yesterday, where I woke up, didn't really want to go, wasn't really feeling it, didn't want to do the things I know I needed to do. I went. Afterwards, I just was in a completely different state, and I thought, wow, pat on the back, good job.
You know what part of that is, and I work on this with my clients, and I teach and I talk about it, is that you kept your word to yourself. Because what most people don't understand is that when we don't keep our word to ourselves, we erode self-trust. We don't recognize it because it's insidious. Like if I told you I was going to do something 5 times in a row and I didn't do it, the 6th time I come and say, hey, Jennifer, you're going to be like, yeah, right. Because I've eroded trust with you. But we do it to ourselves over and over and over, never knowing that we're eroding our own self-trust. So I think that was powerful. I wrote down 2 things that I wanted to touch on that you brought up that I think were important. One is that you said that you were stubborn, right? You didn't want to give up. So let's talk about how that applies to our clients, because oftentimes clients will say to me, well, I'm stuck. And when you really dig and you ask the questions, they're not stuck. They're just being stubborn. Talk about that. How do you find that with your clients? And when you do find clients that are, got their heels dug in and they're stubborn, what's 1 or 2 things that you do successfully to get them to take the next step forward?
Yes, I think our mind plays the biggest role in this, right? We have these beliefs, and I can think of a specific client right now who she's not like this anymore, but when we first signed up, there was a lot of resistance. Oh, I don't have time to do all this. This could never work. I have kids, I have work, I have a part-time job. And so she was telling herself this story for so long. And once I was able to work with her and convince her, like, hey, first of all, sign up with me and we'll make this go away. And you'll see that there is time. And so she did. And we were able to just kind of clear away all those limiting beliefs that are keeping us stuck. Because your mind's so powerful. Once you just stay the same. So as soon as you start to reach for something new, it starts telling you, oh, nope, there's no time. You're always like this. You've already tried everything. It doesn't work. And so it's a normal part of things, but I think it's so important to recognize which voice is talking to you. Is it your higher self that has that higher vision for you? Or is it your ego who, hey, nothing wrong with having the ego. It's part of you. If you didn't have an ego, you wouldn't be alive. But understanding that it is a protection mechanism that is trying to keep you where you are because it's afraid of you making a new change and stepping into something new, the fear of the unknown. So I think that's what it boils down to, is asking yourself that question as to which voice is saying all this right now.
Yeah, that's powerful. The other thing you said that I want to delve into a little bit is you said, I wrote down the word undoing. You had to get into the undoing. So often when a new client signs up with me, and I'd like to hear how you address this as well, when they sign up with me and I explain to them that in my private coaching, it's a minimum 6-month program. And sometimes they're like, oh, 6 months? And I tell them it's not always that you get to learn something new. Often you get to unlearn something old that no longer serves you, and that takes longer because it's embedded, it's ingrained. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think 6 months, it's hard to get transformative results within a short period of time. And I think 3 to 6 months, like that's a perfect time where you can really, really give it your all. And that gives you enough time as well to navigate with the roadblocks that come up. And I'm sure you can resonate with this. When a client starts with me, typically, I have a couple of programs, 3 and 6 months as well. When they start, they're so excited and they're motivated and they are ready to do anything. And they're just like, give me more, give me more. And then it's usually about like 1 month, or sorry, at the end of month 1 or into month 2, and they start feeling like they're not motivated or something happened in their home life or at work, and then they fall there, it kicks them down and they start freaking out. And when they show up to a call with me, I'm like, yes, I'm glad this is happening. And like, they're like, what's wrong with you? You're supposed to not be isn't this supposed to be perfect all the time? And it's like, no, the work, it's not always going to be perfect. And I think that's the value of working with a coach, is when we are there by your side, when those moments come that kick you down, we provide you with the right tools and strategies to show yourself how you can pick yourself back up and keep moving. And once you do that, that's what builds that real resiliency that can't be one of those things you're talking about, like unlearning, that can't be unlearned, which is very powerful because that's something we wouldn't want to unlearn.
Exactly. Exactly. No, that's a great point. Motivation. Let's talk about motivation, because one of the things I help my clients with is to make better business decisions and not emotional decisions, right? So motivation comes from what? Emotion. So I'm going to have you give me your thoughts first, and then I'll talk on my thoughts. I want you to take motivation and talk about the difference in motivation and discipline.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, motivation comes from when you are really, really clear on what it is you want to do and why. Why are you wanting to start something new? Why do you want to lose weight? Why do you want to eat healthier? Oh, I want to look better. Okay, well, what's that going to do, right? And I'm sure you ask these questions with your clients too. Is like that meaning is often really deep,
Yes.
and when we ask clients why, over and over again, that allows us to really get to that deep picture as to what it is they want and why. Where does that desire come from, and what's going to better their lives? And so when we first work with clients, that is something we talk about. So they are really motivated and they're excited, and that's what makes them so eager to get into the work and to do their homework. And what's you already mentioned, motivation is highly linked to our emotion, and so emotions ebb and flow all day long. We're never in the same state all day long. As much as we want to be happier, but imagine we were living our lives just in a happy mood. There'd be no room for growth. It would be boring. Even though it's hard to think that way, because we're like, it's yeah. But that motivation, it's going to be normal for it to trickle out. We forget why we're doing things. Your emotions are going to change and shift based on everything else you have going on in your life. And so with discipline, it means we need to still show up in those moments. And of course, not like, I'm not all about like no pain, no gain, and like, go, go, go. Like, of course, there needs to be some balance and time for rest and recovery. But I think it's important to recognize that, making sure we take a step forward no matter what. And that step might be bigger one day and smaller the other day. But when it comes to discipline, it means continuing to move forward, even on those days where you don't know why you're showing up. You don't know if this is working. You don't know why you're even doing this. And when we keep doing that and we discipline ourselves to make those small changes, that's what eventually leads us to the breakthrough.
I agree. And I also think that discipline is powerful because it comes from a place of choice, right? I've had asked clients before, well, what motivated you to book this call with me, right? Well, I just felt like it. That's a danger sign right there. That's a person who's making decisions just based on emotions in the moment, right? As opposed to someone who said, I know you can help me do this, or this is my challenge, or whatever. So I think oftentimes, and you mentioned it earlier, you said, I say it like emotions are like the clouds. Back in 2007, I had my first life coach. Yes, I'm that old. Nobody even knew what life coaches were back then. And one day she says, this is before Zoom and all this, obviously 2007, got a regular phone that sat on the desk, right? Had it on speakerphone. She says, okay, put the phone down and I want you to go outside and watch the clouds for 3 minutes. I said, what? I'm paying you for this time. She said, go outside and watch the clouds for 3 minutes. Okay. So I leave the phone. I go outside. I watch the clouds. I come back. Well, what'd you notice? Did the clouds move? I said, oh yeah, the clouds, they kind of come and they kind of go, and they went and they moved. And that's exactly like our emotions, right? They come and they go. And yet oftentimes we choose to get wrapped up in it. We think they're permanent, right? Or we want to hold on to them. And so for me, motivation, sometimes people don't even know, I just felt like it. And that's really not operating from a place of choice. And I like my clients to operate from a place of choice and power, right? And so instead of saying, I have to, as a matter of fact, I gave a keynote talk at Ryder Trucking back in January, 55, 60 marketing executives. So I just did this out of the blue. I said, Okay, everybody got pen and paper? Great. You have 60 seconds. I want you to write down everything you have to do today. Everything you have to do, write it down. So people, you can just see the whole energy changing in the room, right? Then I asked for a volunteer. This lady stands up and I said, would you be willing to read your list to us? And she starts off, I have to go get diapers. I have to finish this report. I have to wash the clothes and whatever it was, right? And I said, thank you. And then I had everybody stand up and sit down, right, to change the state in the room. And then I said to her, would you read them again? And instead of saying I have to, use the words I get to, right? So all of a sudden she's like, oh, I get to buy diapers. It changed the whole energy in the room because what? She's coming from a place of choice, a place of power. And oftentimes I think that's something that we get to help our clients see and understand that things don't get to be the way they are just because the way they are. We played a role in that and we had a choice in that. Yep.
Yeah, we're the ultimate creator.
Absolutely. So what one thing do you stand for?
What one thing do I stand for? One big thing I always share with my clients, and I already mentioned it a little bit ago in our conversation here, is that it's the small changes that you make every single day that lead you to transformation. I was a sick teenager, early 20s woman who was struggling with all these health issues, never picked up a healthy food in my life and had no exercise routine. And I didn't just go from that to where I am now overnight. It wasn't like I just woke up one day and said,
Process.
actually, one day I did just wake up and go, hey, what the, when did, I can't remember how far, whoa, that's where I used to be. Like, and it didn't happen just like that. And
Mm-mm.
I think when I was younger, I wanted that. And I think it kept me stuck for many years. Whereas if I would have just been a little more grateful of the choices I was making
Mm.
and just knowing I was taking the right actions every single day, no matter how big or small, I would have faced less resistance. And I think I would have found a little more harmony and peace a lot quicker than I did.
Right. Because one of the things it allows you to do when you take that tack that you said, which I totally agree with, you get to celebrate more often. So when you said earlier, pat yourself on the back, that came up the other day. A friend of mine is doing a new boot camp. So she wanted me to sit in as a coach and listen and give her feedback. And so when she was getting ready to introduce the show, part of her course had pat yourself on the back, celebrate in it. And she goes, I wonder who taught me how to celebrate. It was me, right? Because women don't often celebrate. I had a client one time, and I get my clients to celebrate from a neurolinguistic programming perspective. So what does that mean? That means it gets to be auditory, right? It gets to be verbal, and it gets to be kinesthetic. So for me, and I'll tell you a simple place that this has had such a big impact in my life. I'm 60, going to be 64 years old. I've gone through this period of just like not sleeping well. It's ridiculous. Like who goes to bed at 10 o'clock and wakes up at 1:30 and is up, right? So what I started doing is what I like to do from an NLP perspective is I go, that's awesome. That's how I celebrate. No matter what it is, where I am, it can be the littlest thing. I found a dime in the parking lot today. It's like, that's awesome. I want more of that because we're telling God, the universe, right? We want more of that. So I had this one client back in 2018, and she texted me. This was a female client who did not want to celebrate herself. She was raised, girls don't do that. That's braggadocious, all these negative things around it. So she sends me this text and she had this big breakthrough. I'm like, oh, awesome. Did you celebrate? And she says to me, no, my husband and I are going to do that over Thanksgiving. And I wrote back and I said, God and the universe are going to have no idea what you're celebrating, right? Because we get to do it in the moment. And that's why it's so important. And I find that for my male clients, I do have more female clients than male. I work with a few good men, I say, but they latch onto that so much easier and quicker than my female clients. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, as women, like you said, we've never really we don't give ourselves permission to do these things. And so oftentimes when asked that question, did you celebrate? It's like, well, no. And it's like, well, why? I should be so happy this happened. And that's the thing, something really great could happen that we've been working towards, and then it will feel like it's not enough. And then it's like, we're just on to the next thing. That becomes problematic because we're constantly seeking that external validation. And then we're always just stuck in that loop.
Yep.
And so when we kind of break that cycle up by, celebrating in any way, shape, or form, if it's like saying hell yeah to a dime that we found on the ground or having a dance party in the living room, the universe doesn't know the difference between those things, but it does know that you are open to receive more. Because when we don't do that, then we're shutting off any more good coming to us.
I totally agree. And the end of my story is like, lately now, I'll sleep 6 to 7 hours straight like a baby. And so it doesn't matter. If I was sleeping 3 hours, I was grateful. That's awesome for what I got. And that was me just saying, I want more of that. I want more of that. And guess what? Over time, more of that comes. I'm not doing anything different other than celebrating what I've already received. And you said something else that I think is critical. You said often as women, what we're trying to accomplish, we accomplish and we're on to the next thing. Right?
I see that with clients. I see it with myself as an entrepreneur. Oh, there's always so many things to do. And so the last year, I've really worked on giving myself that permission that I'm already enough as I am. I don't need to seek this and that. And the more work I do doesn't dictate what I'm worthy of or who I am, or that doesn't make me not complete. I'm complete and whole just the way I am. And it just helps you to release all that pressure. And with clients, they get to a certain goal weight and then it's like, well, okay, but now I'll be happy when I get a little bit lower. And it's like, well, no, if you don't celebrate where you are now and all the hard work you just did to get there, again, the universe there's a block there and then we can't continue moving forward. Whereas if you're really grateful for that and you feel abundant for that, it's like the universe is going to reward you with more of that. And then you can throw in the NLP aspect where it's like, okay, you're already acting like you've already received that next goal. And so you're going to be more inclined to take the right actions, think the right thoughts, and take the right steps to get where you want to go.
Absolutely. Totally agree with you. We're coming upon the end of our time. Unfortunately, it went really, really quickly today. So we're going to be running your contact information across under the screen on the banner. I would like you to tell everybody how to get in touch, who your ideal client is, and how they can get in touch with you and work with you.
Thank you. My ideal client is the woman who is doing all the things, working, having a family, wearing so many different hats, who is putting themselves to the very end and not filling their cup. And my goal is to show them how to build sustainable habits that don't feel like work, that become enjoyable and part of you. The easiest way to find me is on Instagram. My handle is @healingwithjennifer. And you can also find me at my website, which is healingwithjennifer.ca.
Awesome. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you. If you could leave our guest with one thought, just one, what would it be today?
Stop seeking answers from the external world because you already have the answers within you.
Awesome. And the one thought I'm going to leave the crowd with is your job is just to take the next step. I believe that God gave us a lamplight only for our feet because we get to trust in the process and take the next step. If you're ready to get your health back together, your next step, get in touch with Jennifer. For me, for those of you who know what I do, I'm not going to tell you again today, but come back next Wednesday when it is Carol Boston Solo. And we're going to talk about some amazing things that I didn't get to today in this book, The Last Arrow. Thank you so much for being here today. If you're on #replay, let us know #replay. Let us know you've reached out to Jennifer and come back next Wednesday. We'll be here on the Intuitive Entrepreneur Show. Until then, blessings to each and every one of you. Make it a great week.
The Intuitive Entrepreneur Show is hosted by Max and Janetta Jones and is brought to you by Life Coaching Today magazine, empowering your health, business, community, and life. This has been a production of True Awesome Life Productions, who asked, what does your true awesome life look like? Start that journey today at trueawesomelife.com. For more information on this or past episodes, go to theintuitiveentrepreneurshow.com.